The Maximum Happiness course, available online at www.maximumhappiness.co.uk. Welcome to this Maximum Happiness course, Session 5, How Did I Get Here? In this complicated process of living, there comes a time when we look around at where we are in life and it looks nothing like what we expected. We remember where we wanted to be by this time of our lives in our relationships, our work and our achievements. But somehow we got lost on our path to happiness. The information and exercises in this session will help you to dig more deeply into your inner self, getting ever closer to the authentic, happier you. We'll be searching for significant turning points of pain and joy. The choices and decisions that had a long-term positive or detrimental effect on your life and behaviours, and the influences of significant people at various stages of your development to arrive at the real you that you know in this moment. Let's look at how our character and personality developed. Emotional programming, your conditioning. It's not by accident or luck that you've ended up the person that you are right now. Much of it is due to the emotional programming that you experienced as you grew. Your emotional programming is simply a set of beliefs that you acquired about yourself, collecting experiences and influences minute by minute from your parents, peers, relatives, friends and society. For the rest of your life, these beliefs affect the way that you think and behave. Until you identify the beliefs that are not relevant to you personally or no longer serve your best interests, your happiness through authenticity remains at the mercy of those beliefs. In other words, your life experiences cause you to make decisions about yourself, your abilities, the thoughts that you'll have, the behaviours that you'll employ, and the choices that you'll make. Between the ages of birth and 5 years of age, you receive 50% of your emotional programming. Between 5 and 8 years old, you receive a further 30% of your emotional programming. Between 8 and 18 years of age, you receive a further 15% of your emotional programming. What this means is that by the time you are 18 years of age, you are 95% programmed. It's the 5% remaining for the rest of your life that can be used to make worthwhile changes in your life. As an example, whilst 5% of your mind says, I want a wonderful relationship with a partner that treats me well, it's the 95% already programmed that is responsible for any poor love choices that you may have made in the past. It's only once you dig deep like this to understand why you've been doing what you have been doing that you will be free to change your life and behaviour for the better. Your unconscious mental programming is responsible for most of the pain that you have experienced from decisions and choices that you've made in the past. Let's look at the stages of human development. One of the world's most recognised psychologists was Erik Erikson, whose work in the field of human development is particularly relevant to the subject that we're exploring here. Babies are born with some basic capabilities and distinct temperaments, but they go through dramatic changes on the way to adulthood and whilst growing older. According to Erikson, each individual passes through 8 development stages. Each stage is characterised by a different psychological crisis which must be resolved by the individual before the individual can move on to the next stage. If the person copes with a particular crisis in a particular stage poorly, the outcome will be more struggles with that issue later in life. So let's look at Erikson's 8 psychological stages in a summary chart. This chart appears on page 53 in the transcript notes that accompany the course. Whatever age, sex or colour you happen to be, whatever stage of human development you may have reached, you'll have memories of phases when life seemed more of a trial than others. You may have experienced difficult childhood when you felt unloved or lacking in approval. You may have been taught that guilt was a natural state of mind, and through experience that trusting others only ended in tears and pain. Reflecting back over your life, you'll have your very own recollections of experiences from earlier life phases that either positively or negatively influenced your beliefs. Vitally important learning skills are acquired in our formative years. We receive so much of that learning as a result of influences received from events, selections, choices, and people. Let's look at the difference between psychotherapy and something called cognitive behavioural therapy, or CBT as it's known. It can be seen from the Erikson model that our conditioning and programming in early years can affect the way we cope with the challenges of life. Much of therapy deals with the shortfalls you may have experienced moving through each of the development stages. Psychotherapy is a process whereby psychological problems are treated through communication and relationship factors between an individual and a trained mental health professional. CBT, or cognitive behavioural therapy, focuses on challenging and changing unhelpful cognitive distortions and behaviours, improving emotional regulation and the development of personal coping strategies that target solving current problems. Essentially, CBT focuses on helping patients arrive at their own answers, their own solutions. The experiences that have defined life as you know it, from the thousands of hours of life that you may have amassed, your defining experiences, those that moulded you into the person that you are now, are derived from one of 3 elements. Number 1 is your decisive events. Number 2 is your important choices and selections. And number 3 is your dominant people. These 3 key areas will have contributed positively and negatively to the construction of your authentic self. Some will have positively influenced it, Others will have caused you to wear masks, engage in denials, and otherwise obstruct your life of authentic happiness. So the sooner we dig deep and identify the roots of your tree of life, the sooner you'll be able to start working toward a life of fulfillment and joy. You are today a sum total of how you responded to all the experiences, thoughts, and influences that have occurred in your life up to this point. You are a reflected image of your reaction to all the critical moments, the crucial decisions, and the influence of others that life threw at you down the years. Some of your reactions will have been positive, and you'll have learned healthy lessons and grown as a human being. Other reactions will have been misguided, perhaps influenced by your family, friends, peers, society, or authority figures in your life. The result is that you are today a mixture of the correct, positive, and beneficial responses and the incorrect, negative, and detrimental responses to your influential events, selections, and people that occurred in your life. To conclude this session, we have 3 exercises that are designed to discover the important, significant, and influential events, selections, choices, and people that have contributed to the person that you see in the mirror. You may find it useful to have a notepad and a pen available from this point forward. Remember to keep the notes you make private. They are your memories and yours alone, and they should be intended to be for your eyes only. Think of this process like this. You have in front of you 2 jigsaw puzzles. One puzzle, when completed, depicts a picture of you living your ideal, happiest, authentic life. The other puzzle depicts you living an unhappy life, wearing masks, and lost in a fog of denial. Someone has very kindly mixed up the pieces of both puzzles together in one box. You only want to complete one jigsaw puzzle, the right one, the one that forms a picture of you in your happiest, most authentic state. Your challenge as you trawl through your memory banks for this exercise is to identify and separate the useful pieces of events, selections, and people from the pieces that no longer serve to your best advantage and interest. To get as much benefit as possible from the exercise, read through the guidance paragraphs in the accompanying guidance booklet, and then write down as many detailed memories as you can, recalling facts, events, circumstances, experiences, emotions, reactions as clearly as you can recall. Be prepared to answer questions like, what emotions did this provoke for me? How did this change my emotional state? And did I feel love or hate or insecurity or fear? And how did this cause me to alter my behaviour for similar future experiences? So, let's start with your influential events. It's important to think right back to the earliest moment that you can recall after you were born, and work your way forward in various age groups to the present moment in time. From the moment you were born, forces were at work that would determine the outcomes of your life. From all that you know, from what you were told by your parents, siblings and others, form a mental picture of what life must have been like in your family at the time of your arrival. Were you born into an underprivileged, poor, dysfunctional or battle-weary family? Or was life more comfortable and enriched for you? Were there negative influencing factors such as alcohol, violence, disharmony, abuse or financial pressure? Or were your early years filled with healthy, solid, happy foundations? Either way, was the correct quality and quantity of unconditional love present for you in those early years? These may be difficult issues to even consider, let alone to confront and answer. But the process is so worthwhile to get to the crux of what started the chain of events and experiences that helped form your present self. So take up your private notepad, allocate a separate page for each of the age groups given. Consider the critical moments in your life for each age group. This will require all of your powers of recall, trawling through your memory banks to arrive at the true analysis of self. So let's look at the development stages, from birth right the way through to our passing. And you may want to refer to the guidebook to remind you. Quite simply, they are: stage 1, birth to 6 years of age, up to early childhood. Stage 2, 6 years of age to 12 years, up to junior school years. Stage 3, 12 years of age to 18 years, adolescence. Stage 4, 19 to 40 years of age, young adulthood. Stage 5, 40 to 65 years of age, middle adulthood. Stage 6, 65 onward, late adulthood. For each stage of your life, up to the age that you've reached now, we'll consider the key factors affecting your development, referring back to the Erikson table. Remind yourself of the influential events that occurred in each phase of your life. For each critical moment you identify, ask yourself questions to place yourself in the real moment of the time that's relevant. Take yourself back to that age, where you were, what you were doing. The answers you truthfully arrive at will form a sound basis from which to move forward to that life of authenticity and happiness that you're seeking. Here are some questions to prompt your thinking. Thinking back to the age, the development stage that you're thinking about, the age group that you're thinking about, where are you at this moment in time? Reflect back, think where you were. How old are you at this point, and what do you look like? Who's there with you? Who is supposed to be there with you? Who should be there with you? What's happening that makes this moment so influential in your life? What emotions or changes of emotions are you feeling now? Loneliness, anger, fear, confusion, joy, power, helplessness? How would you change the experience if this were possible? What is your mental and physical experience? Clarity, confusion, happy, sad, joy, pain, weak, strong? If you could speak to someone, who and what would you say? What are you saying to yourself about this time of your life? What do you need right now more than anything else? Having answered the questions as if you were in the moment, back there at that age, for each incident, answer the following if you can in writing. How do you feel now? What emotions are you having now about that time? What are you telling yourself about these events today? What power did you lose to the event if it was negative? Or what power did you gain? Or what did you learn if it was a positive experience? If you completed this first exercise truthfully and completely, you'll now be armed with the information that you need to move forward. So now, list your influential events in one brief paragraph or a few sentences. For each, define the before and after of how the event affected you. Write a few lines to define the long-term effect of the event. Write how and why you think the moment supported or obstructed your authentic self showing through. Review and decide if your interpretation and reaction to the event was correct or not. Write down whether you should keep or discard your views regarding the impact on yourself from each of the events that you've covered. Having survived your events, review them as a whole and determine what has been the effect on your self-worth and confidence. Now, we want to repeat the exercise for the next stage, which is the influential selections and choices that you made in each of the age sections that we've listed. Before starting the section of the exercise, briefly review the hierarchy of needs pyramid in the last session that we did. We're all motivated by different factors to make choices and decisions in our lives, and invariably the choices and decisions that we make will be driven by one or more of the human needs. Armed with the information of your influential events, work through the appropriate age groups in the stages of development and identify the important selections, decisions and choices that you made in each band. The challenge of this action and this section is to identify the selections, the decisions and the choices that you made and how they affected living your life authentically. Refer again to the age stages of your life, the development stages. Look at the choices that had significant impact on your life, emotionally, physically, financially, legally, socially, and ask yourself the following questions. What was or were the choices? Why did you make those choices? Why did you make it or them? What did you give up by making this choice or those choices? What was the effect on your self-worth before and after making the choice? What was the long-term effect of the choice on your self-worth? How or why did the choice clarify or obstruct your authentic self? Review your interpretation and reaction to the choice or choices. Was your interpretation accurate or inaccurate? Now, we'll repeat the exercise for a final time for the influential people. Finally, we'll look at the people who intentionally or otherwise, well-intended or not, exerted influence over the level of authenticity with which you now live your life. List the people who have influenced your life positively and negatively. Again, consider the age bands. Refer again to the stages of your life, the stages of development that appear in the guidebook. Who was most influential in your life throughout each of the bands? The same people may have exerted influence in more than one of the bands or across the bands, such as parents, siblings, friends, loved ones, spouses. Who shaped your concept of self and authenticity that controls your life today? For each person, list their name and how old were you at that time? Write down their actions that affected you. Write down the influence of these actions on you, positive or negative. For the purpose of this exercise, take a cold, hard look at the influence that has been exerted on your development. Do not allow your feelings for the person involved to affect your judgment. However well intended, their influence may no longer fit with you comfortably. It's time to determine if the influences that have helped create the present you, are they still, or were they ever, serving your best interests in terms of your emotional development? Were you on the list of the influential people that you listed? If not, why not? If your own name does not appear on the list, it may mean that the self that you now own has been moulded, manufactured and forged by other people throughout your life. This would mean that you attribute your basic core characteristics to the actions and behaviours of others. If so, maybe they took great care of the precious commodity that you entrusted them with, and maybe they didn't. It surely makes good sense that you should be the first person on your list of influential people. Only you can change you to your own satisfaction. By now, you will have valuable memories crystallised into note form that spell out for you the influential events and moments that moulded your life as it is now, the pivotal, influential choices and decisions that you made, and the actions of the influential people in your life, and the effects, good or bad, of their influences. So, reviewing the process. Assuming you've completed this important exercise in all three sections, you're equipped to analyse the life-changing moments, influencing factors, choices and decisions that have created the life you now live. Ask yourself how much of the life you now live is authentic to the degree that would make you happy. Revisit the results of your happiness test in the section on human needs that we covered in a previous session, the roles and the areas. Look at the areas where you're happiest and least satisfied. Can you see more clearly now how your life-changing moments, influential people, and the factors relating to choices and decisions have influenced your authentic state of happiness? Are you more or less happy as a result of the influences and actions of those events and people? Can you see areas where change would significantly impact on your happiness, positively or negatively? This session concludes with a profound thought and a poem that will hopefully inspire you to explore your life up to this point and decide for yourself what changes, if any, you need to consider that would make the rest of your life the best of your life. The Dash, a poem by Linda Ellis. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth and spoke of the following date with tears. But he said that mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time they spent alive right here on earth. Now only those who love them know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that still can be rearranged. To be less quick to anger and show appreciation more. To love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you lived your dash? That brings this session, How Did I Get Here? Exploring your conditioning and programming, to a close. Coming up in the next session, your belief systems. Discover how the beliefs that reside in your mind dramatically improve or impair your experience of happiness. We'll learn how to improve our belief systems and how to eliminate self-limiting, destructive and negative beliefs. Thank you.